Oh, hey book readers, this is the B-Side Book Reviews. And today we are going to look at a rockin' book. Well, at least we're going to look at a book about rock bands. Rock names from Abba to ZZ Top. How rock bands got their names. Yes, our author, Adam Dolgins. Dolgins? We'll just call him Adam D. Well, Adam D dives into the issue and subject of where these famous bands that we grew up listening to got those names that we're all so familiar with. Yes, these bands are from, early 60s all the way to the late 90s. Yeah. About 4 decades of music there. So, get yourself some coffee. Or you can drink whatever you want. Oh, chill out. It's ginger ale. At least, that's my story. Okay, you've got a band together. You've got the instrument, you've got the songs, and you've got a gig. So, what do you need now? Oh yeah, a name for your band. But where does one get a name for a band? Well, do you get it from a book title? Or perhaps a passing billboard? Or maybe you just put your finger on the page of an encyclopedia. Ooh, look! Clipper Ship. Wow. Or do you let your grandmother or sister name your band? Well, you can do any of these acts because here's a book that tells you that all of these practices, plus many more, have been used to name some of the most famous bands in rock and roll history. So, maybe you're a great rock and roll historian, and you think that you already know all of these stories. So, you think that the Bee Gees got their name from the words Brother Skib. Well, wrong! Do you think that the Blue Oyster Cult was some diverse 1970s religious sect that worshipped psychedelic shellfish? Wrong! Do you think that Deep Purple was named after some huge hickey found on a groupie's neck? Once again, wrong! That one is really wrong, by the way. Kind of cool though if you think about it. But never fear, for our author, Adam Dolgins, is here to set it all straight. He really does start with, well, he starts with Abba, and he ends with ZZ Top. Didn't have any ZZ Top vinyl. Had to dig into the CDs. Yes, Abba, ZZ Top. Not only do we talk about bands here, but a few solo acts as well. Guys like Meatloaf and Elvis Costello. And we learn about supergroups like the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. And we also learn about a few bands, well, I've never heard of, like the Bonzo Dog Band. And a few bands that I haven't thought about in years, like Wet, Wet, Wet. Love that name, the Bonzo Dog Band, by the way. Okay, now we've all heard the story of where Lynyrd Skynyrd got their name, and most of us think we know the story of where the name Led Zeppelin originated. Well, we were close. Keith Moon of The Who did have a hand in it, but Did you know that Jimmy Page decided to misspell the word lead, S-L-E-D, so we, thick Americans wouldn't pronounce it as Lead Zeppelin? Lead Zeppelin. Okay, remember the band L7? I found out that L7 actually meant square. And here I thought it meant something else. Oh, never mind. Yeah, some bands were looking for that special name that defined them, while others just blurted out the first thing that came to mind. And some made lists of hundreds of names before they chose one. Hey, it's an important step, because once you've got a name, you're kind of stuck with it. Some regretted their name, while some didn't. However, beware, new rockers, because there's a lot of bands out there, and a lot of names. Just determining which band names were available tended to be quite the issue for a lot of these groups. Yeah, originality goes a long ways when coming up with a band name. Yeah, I guess that explains the band name Sick Puppies. Sick Puppies. I actually saw Sick Puppies play one time. Really cool trio. I don't know if they're still around, but I thought they were pretty good. Sick Puppies! Now, this isn't exactly a binge reading book. I read the thing cover to cover, but I would recommend it more as a reference book, or maybe take on the band names A through E and then later do F through H or whatever. After all, the book is printed with these really easy reference letters right on the pages. Pretty cool, huh? And of course, bands tend to break up and form new bands. So, if you're looking for the old 70s band, Bachman Turner Overdrive, you might want to check for them under the Guess Who. Because, you know, Randy Bachman used to be in the Guess Who. And since this edition came out way back in 1998, well, there's a few bands that you won't find in it. Even though Green Day and the Foo Fighters are mentioned, I never found Dance Gavin Dance. I couldn't even find 3 of my favorite bands: Social Distortion, Flogging Molly, or even Dropkick Murphys. Never mind, I know the story of the Dropkick Murphys name. The book does mention the Pogues though, so I'll give them the thumbs up for that. Okay, now I've heard the stories concerning the names of the bands like Box Tops, Marshall Tucker Band, AC/DC, and Jethro Tull. And no, Jethro Tull is not the name of the flute player. However, there were still several tidbits of information that kind of made me say, no way! And there were other times when I said, who really cares? Because I had never heard of the band in the first place. Yes, when our author dove into some 2-page long interview regarding some band I never knew existed, well, it was kind of a nap time for me. Sorry, I've never heard of the band Flipper. Cool name though. And there were a few bands who got a little more attention than others. The Guess Who got around 3 or 4 pages, while the Monkees here only got around 3 or 4 lines. Okay, now the length of the explanation usually resulted from our author's contact with the source. Yes, several of these gems of rock and roll trivia came from actual interviews with someone in the band. And then there were other band names that, well, the info sounded like he was, well, just reading it right off the album cover. Hey, you get what you can. I'm sure getting an interview with Bono to discuss the origins of U2 probably isn't the easiest thing in the world to do. Yeah, I think. Then again, I'm sure there are some lost early 80s flash in the pan new wave band that were thrilled to death that someone actually remembered or even cared enough to ask them anything about their band. I can just see it. You want to hear about my band from 1983? Hang on, let me go park my forklift. I'll be right there. Rest assured, though, there are plenty of one-hit wonders here for all of us to study up for our next bout of Trivial Pursuit. Study up on Flipper. Just so you can impress your weird uncle who thinks he knows everything about the music world of 40 years ago, or if you're looking for that eye roll from your don't give a darn teenage kid or grandkid, this book includes the name origins of such forgotten bands as The Knack, Quarter Flash, and that early 80s relic, Bow Wow Wow. I want candy. But wait a minute. What about all the other one-hit wonders? I mean, where is Dixie's Midnight Runners? The Waitresses? Looking Glass? Their song Brandy was one of my brother's favorite songs. I was hoping to impress him with a little forgotten one-hit wonder knowledge. Okay, well, I guess you can't include all bands. But the book doesn't even include the Go-Go's. The Go-Go's? Come on! They were like one of the biggest pop bands of the 80s. My gosh, Adam, you put in Gwar, but not the Go-Go's? I've actually seen Gwar in concert. And the Go-Go's. Not together. Although that might have been a very interesting show. Okay, he didn't mention the Osmond Brothers either. Now I'll never know how the Osmond Brothers got their name. Osmond Brothers. Wait a minute. The book comes in just under 300 pages at $2.99, which is pretty good considering we're covering nearly 4 decades of music here. Yes, we go from the Temptations to garbage. Meaning this is probably a book for the music fan who's old enough to remember the days when we had to stand in line to buy concert tickets, and someone old enough to know what an 8-track tape is. Now apparently there wasn't enough room to include any country acts. After all, it's the rock names. So it's restricted to rock bands like Abba. Yeah, I would have liked to have known the story behind the name of the country band Asleep at the Wheel. And will I ever know the story behind the name for the band Alabama? Maybe they were from Alabama. Maybe not. Listed is a band named Texas. that originated in Glasgow, Scotland. A band named Texas in Scotland. Now that just ain't right. Okay, so that was the book Rock Names. How rock bands got their names. Pretty interesting stuff here. I've always found the name of bands to be an interesting subject to begin with. And one of my all-time favorite rock band names was Fleetwood Mac. Now, back in the day, I had no idea about anyone in the band. I just used to hear them on the radio. And I always wondered, where did that name Fleetwood Mac come from? And of course, my know-it-all older brother, he tried to explain it to me. He said, I betcha one of the guys in the band drives a truck, like a Mack truck. And another guy in the band probably has a Cadillac. Like a Fleetwood Cadillac. Thus the name Fleetwood Mac. How little we knew back in those days. So, check this book out. Check out any book. Or start a band. Or you can do whatever you want. I really don't care. Just be safe and stay out of trouble.